up to you.
All right, well, let's start with Deebo, since that was one of the big things. What went into that, and why did you want to bring him on board?
Yeah, well, obviously I know Deebo really well. We drafted him. We actually coached him at the Senior Bowl, so I got to know him there pretty well too. So I know a lot about him, know what kind of competitor he is, what kind of playmaker he is. I've seen firsthand like him take over games, and it's really infectious throughout the team too. And just a great person, great human. Like they came in, his whole family came in when we signed him, and they're on their way to Disneyland. So the big old crew, they're ready to go to Orlando. But just what he can do for our team, being a playmaker with the ball in his hands, he's very versatile. And he's a great teammate, so he really kind of opens up our offense when you have him and Terry at receiver, and obviously a bunch of other guys too. But being able to get a playmaker like that and understanding that it wasn't a huge cost for us made it something enticing.
What you talk about the offense too? How can he change the dynamics of the offense?
Well, just everything he can do, really. You can put him in the backfield. Cliff's a really creative guy, so it gives him another quote-unquote toy to play with, in terms of where you can align him. You can line him wide, you can line him in the slot, you can align him in the backfield. And we do a lot of screen game, and so Deebo's incredible in that, just catch it and run, making plays with the ball in his hand. So we thought he was a really good fit for what we do.
To make the trade for Deebo and for Laramie and factor in Marshawn, you guys have traded away a lot of picks over the last few months. Obviously, the way you talked early on about, hey, we want to build through the draft.
Yeah.
I think there's some confusion out there as to have you guys changed philosophy, or how do you kind of address the way you've kind of gone about this?
Well, I think you take each opportunity as they come, right? And so understanding where we were able to get really good players at really good important positions, there's give and take to that, right? And so we did pick 9 players last year. I think they all made the team, right? And then we had 2 rookie free agents make the team as well. So we have 5 picks this year. We could have more, depending on what happens. So we do. It's almost a full complement both years. Obviously, you do want to build through the draft, and I feel that all the time. But understanding when you can get a premier corner, a premier receiver, a premier left tackle, those are things you have to really look into. And we just felt that was the best move for us.
In terms of that, that was not a strong year for agency with left tackles, and obviously the draft, you're getting a rookie. Why did you decide that this was a move both for the player and the position that you felt, hey, we really need to be aggressive here?
Yeah, you said it. I mean, those guys don't come on the market very often, right? Left tackles in free agency or any time really. And picking 29, it's not like you're picking top 5 and it's a sure thing or as close to a sure thing as you can get. So when you have an opportunity like that, and we really wanted to bolster the offensive line, and he's in our opinion one of the best. You can say he's top 3, top 2 in pass protection. I think he's underrated as a run blocker too, and understanding too, we have people in that building that really vouch for him as a person, so we knew he'd fit in with our team, with our locker room, within that O-line room, and early returns show he's been great. When he came out here, he's connected with a lot of our guys, and I think he's going to be a great addition. So those opportunities are rare, so we thought it was the right to pounce on it.
Given where your complement of picks is, do you have to give extra consideration to trading down to try to pick some picks back up?
That's certainly something that we'll consider. We'll consider everything, trading up, trading down. We always do. With trading down, you have to have somebody who wants to trade up, and that's what I always say, I'd love to trade down all the time, but there has to be somebody else that wants to trade up, and it has to be the right deal. And how far do you want to go back, and all those different things you take into account. Who's there on the board, right? Is there just one player on the board that you want? And if that's the case, then maybe you think twice about trading back, but if you have 5 players on the board that you really like, you can trade back a few picks, and then you can just pick one of those. And I think, with what we did in free agency and through the trades, we have the optionality to really do anything at 29, which we feel really good about.
When you're trying to figure out what other teams are going to do in the draft, how much of your mock, I guess, is based on the internal polling that you guys are doing as a front office versus some experts who are publicly putting out mock drafts? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, you use all of it. There's so much information out there, and you try to leverage all of it to make good decisions. And our scouting department does a great job of, surveying the team needs of all the other 31 teams. Okay, these guys needed this, but they address it in free agency, so they may not need that. But okay, they do need this, or the public doesn't think they need this, but this guy's, going to be out of contract next year, so that's actually something they do need. So our scouting staff does a great job of prepping us for that. And then the mocks, there's a lot of mocks out there now. There's a lot of mocks out there, and but using the reputable ones, understanding some people really know things that others don't, and understanding, okay, this mock says this, but he's ranked not that high, so maybe he's not going there, and so on, or the media hasn't caught up with the league in terms of how they feel about a player. So all that goes into those things, but you still can be wrong a lot of the times, and then all of a sudden you think, okay, these guys at 28, they're going to pick a defensive tackle or whatever, so they're not going to take our guy, whoever it is, right? And then they trade out, so and all that stuff goes to the waste. But you try to prepare for all those things just to get as much information as possible.
A lot of movement on the D-line. Lose John, bring a couple new guys in, Kinlaw, Wise. How do you feel about that group, kind of where they are?
Feel really good. Feel really good with the guys that we brought in, the guys that were here, that you're going to have a second year in this system. So, we brought in we brought in Wise, who's a big physical defensive end. We brought in Eddie Goldman, physical defensive tackle, and then the big one was Kinlaw. And Kinlaw is a tone setter. He's explosive. He's physical. He can line up across the line, and we think he's going to be a great commander. And he wanted to be here. We wanted him to be here. He's from DC, so there's a lot of extra incentive for that. So they're like kind of the bigger guys that we brought in. We brought in Jacob Martin, who's going to be able to rush the passer and do a line a lot of different ways. And then with the guys that we have in there, they'll be a second year in the system. So we feel like we have really good depth, really good competition, and but also the optionality, if we do want to add for the draft, we can do that too.
Javon indicated he might. Sorry, I saw your question. Javon indicated he might wanted to get a little bit smaller from where he was last season. Is that something you guys have talked to him about? He said he wanted to get some of his explosiveness back.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any conversation about what size he should be, if you want him bigger or if you want to move him, make him smaller?
Yeah, he's have you seen him in person?
Yeah,
He's a monster. Like the Zoom doesn't like he's unbelievable. You might have seen him if you went to the joint practices against the Jets last year, and he was probably the heaviest I've seen him there. But he can look like he can be 350 and be chiseled. Like he's a freak. Like it's unbelievable. But I've seen him when he's as low as 275 in San Francisco, and then as high as 330 plus last year with the Jets. So he can play at any position or any weight. Excuse me. He played a lot last year. It was really impressive to see how much he played. 60% of the snaps at that weight, which is really impressive. But if he loses 10 or 15 pounds, if that makes him feel better, he's still going to be just as effective. He's still a monster.
But
so.
It doesn't change how you guys would use him.
No. I think what the great thing about him is he can line up, wherever we want him. I don't think he's going to be living on the edge, but song reference?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, too young. That's why I picked him.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But his versatility,
okay.
so he can hang in there and anchor, or he can penetrate and do all those different things. So, but whatever weight, there's a weight range that I think is going to be good for him, right around 320, I think. And if that's where he feels best, he's going to be plenty big to do what he needed to do.
The fact that Darryl coached him and that Dan kind of cut his teeth coaching D-line, how much did that go into wanting to get what he can bring here?
Yeah, I think everything that we knew about him, with his relationship with Tap is a big deal. And obviously DQ having an influence in that room. Is Tap's still a young coach. He's doing a great job, but DQ can also help him, and DQ knows that position like the back of his hand. So understanding that we have people surrounding him that can help him, because we really think Kinlaw, his best football's in front of him. He started early in his career. He got hurt. He had a really major injury that, to his credit, he fought back through and came back even better, which was really impressive. And how much he played 2 years ago in San Francisco and how much he played last year, he's just kind of, those are like his first 2 years in essence. So, and he's got the hunger to get better and better. So, you know, we like that as much as anything about him, is that his best football's in front of him.
Speaking of weight stuff, Deebo has publicly talked about being heavier than he should have been last season. How do you guys talk about that, like monitor it? Is that part of a plan or something?
Yeah, I think you always, every player has a plan in terms of their weight, right? And that's not just Deebo, that's everybody. Target weight that, you know, or target range that we want you in, that we think, and you really decide that with the player, with the health and performance team and dietitian and all that. And all right, what's the best range for this person to be healthy and perform at their best? And so we'll decide that with Deebo, like we will with every other player on the roster. But I'm not concerned about his weight. You know, he's a big dude. He's a thick dude. No, he's a powerful dude, and so he's not going to be, you know, 200 pounds like some receivers. That's just, you know, not possible. But you know, we're comfortable with where he is and his motivation to be at his best.
Is there a desire to get Terry a new deal before the season starts, especially with Deebo coming in, him having more money than Terry? I don't know if that factors. Is there a desire to get something done with him before the season starts?
Yeah, I think. I mean, short answer is we want to make Terry a commander for a long time. You know, he's a great commander. He got better and better as the season went on, not only as a player but as a leader. It was really impressive to see him grow so much. When you think of Terry as this, you know, pristine, polished player, but then he got even better. You know, so it's really cool. Everybody can get better. You know, even the great ones. So. But you know, we've had talks with Terry's representation, and I think just like any talks we'll have, those will stay in the house. But you know, it's been really positive.
The additions of Will Harris and Jonathan Jones. So can you just share what you all saw in them and what made you think that they were going to be really good commanders? Yeah,
you said it. They look like commanders on tape, and everything we've heard about them from New England, from New Orleans, but also when Will Harris was in Detroit, we had Lance Newmark was there, so we have some really good insight with him. And then Jonathan Jones has been a great pro for, you know, since he got in the, I mean, he's a self-made guy who has been a great pro for a long time. So understanding who they are as men and who they are as competitors and teammates, but then also their play style on the field. And I think you guys, I've seen them, like the highlights that our fans make are really cool, like on on social media. But like those guys are physical, they're fast, they're aggressive, they play our style. So we're really excited to have them.
And then keeping the tight end room together.
Yeah.
Just share a little bit more about why that was so important for you all as well.
Yeah, I think just starting with Zach, you know. Bringing him in last year, we were really pleased with how he not only played, but what a leader he was, and becoming a captain voted on by his teammates at the end of the year was really, really cool to see just how his leadership grew throughout the year, much like Terry's. And so that was a priority for us to bring him back. And he's been, you know, people can say he's lost a step, but he still gets open all the time, and his blocking got better as the year went on too. So everybody had that mindset to get better, and Zach was fit right in with that. And yeah, he's a great weapon to have in the pass game, especially. So that was a priority. And then John Bates, we think he's, if not the best, one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. And his mentality, his tenacity, his physicality fit right in with what we want to do, and he brings an edge to our offensive line. He's almost an extension of that. But we also think with John that he's got much like Kinlaw, he's got another step to go in the pass game. He's got some untapped stuff that we really want to work on. And when we re-signed him, that was one of our goals. We talked to him about that. It's like, we don't want to just bring you back, we want to get you better and better. And he was really positive about that. So that room's a really good room. It's a really deep room, and that's what we want to create with every room, really, is competition, and that's really the theme of our program.
How do you go about with a young quarterback building the roster to maximize what Jaden, where he's at in the contract window, et cetera, and just that whole process?
I'm just figuring it out right now. No, yeah, it's interesting because I've seen it happen where teams have to pay their quarterback eventually, and then you have to make some decisions that you don't necessarily have to make right now. And so to be able, you know, we do have the flexibility right now to get some higher priced players around them. So that is a good thing. Eventually we're gonna have to pay Jaden, and I think we'll be really excited to pay Jaden when that comes. But I mean, I don't know if Josh will, but so yeah, maximizing that. But I mean, it's just the same. Like, we're just trying to make our team as good as possible all the time, and so that does give us more flexibility. But knowing that eventually at some point that'll come to an end.
Along those lines, is that so the primary impetus for signing a number of guys to shorter term deals in free agency, a lot of 1 year?
Yeah.
2 years?
I think that's just kind of how the market is too, a little bit of that also. We do have a lot of flexibility in the future because of that, like what you're saying, like we're not tied to a ton of players in 26, 27, and so not a ton of guarantees that are out there down the line. But, just building this team, and like I said, we try to build through the draft, and that's going to be a real big focus here. But you only have opportunities if a player wants a 1 year deal, then you can't give them a 2 year deal, and so a lot of the players that we have, we're kind of in that mindset, and so the guys that we were able to sign the longer term deals, we're happy to do that. But this does provide us optionality and flexibility, but ultimately, like I've said, and obviously, you can argue with that, and I understand that argument, but it's, you get the guys that are under 3 or 4 year contracts, essentially that helps build the foundation of your team, and that's where we want to get to.
Got time for one more. Have there been any contract talks with Laramie, or do you foresee any of those?
No, we haven't had any of those, and any of those, we'll keep those in-house.
The actual draft, you guys have obviously signed a lot of guys, and it looks like you've given yourself options if the roster not feeling maybe desperate at certain spots. But what are some of the areas maybe you are looking to address? And then you mentioned possibly trading down. Is trading away picks still an option considering what you guys have already done?
Yeah, I mean, everything's an option, just depending on the value, right, and the player and the value. So you never want to close that door. It would be our preference to not do that. But, it just depends on the situation. But I think in terms of where we're looking, I think we can look anywhere now. And I think that's, what our staff did a great job of accomplishing by targeting players at all these positions in free agency and signing our own guys and getting the trades. Our staff did a great job of helping us fill in all those spots so we could go play today if we want to. And I think we'd be pretty good today, honestly. So that gives us that flexibility to go wherever we want to go.
All right, John, last one.
Tush push, that's on the table for the, what your thoughts on that, and how much do you think?
Come on,
How much do you
Sean.
think, sorry about that.
That's a
How much do you
that's a
think
demerit.
Frankie may have helped push this?
I'll let you guys decide about the Frankie aspect of it. Those memes were cool, though. You guys see those? But that's going to be decided, and there's so many things that go into that, and so the competition committee does a great job of identifying all the potential pitfalls and unintended consequences. The medical people weigh in on that as well in terms of how safe of a play it is and all that. But ultimately, until they change anything, if they change anything, it's our job to stop it. And so we're just going to keep trying to find ways to do that.
Thank
So
you.
does that mean you want to ban?
That was the last one.
That's a good way.
Thanks.